The collected requirements of a client needs to be designed. Software is not just an executable code. It is not just a program. Problem analysis. What is the meaning of problem analysis? Structural testing. These are followed in a structured format. Hello everyone, it is Dr. Ravi Kumar. Today we shall see the topics of software engineering. In this software engineering, you will learn the different concepts of software engineering. That is, the first concept in Unit 1, you will learn about the software process. In this software process, you will learn about different types of software development lifecycle models. And in the next unit, that is in Unit 2, you will learn about software requirements. That is the list of requirements to be met by the software developer to meet the criteria or the requirements of the client. That is in Unit 3, you will come across the design concepts and coding. That is how the collected requirements of a client needs to be designed and it has to be implemented in the form of a coding. That is, logical description of that has to be maintained. All those details are discussed in Unit 3. That is, finally in Unit 4, you will come across testing and project management. Once we test whether the software developed for the client is working properly, we say that it is ready for delivery of software product to the client. Once it is delivered to him, he may come across few more modifications to the delivered software product. Then it has to be maintained. That is called as a maintenance, also called as project management. You will come across the concepts of those in Unit 4. So let us take the few brief description of software process which you will come across in Unit 1. If you look at this diagram, you will clearly understand that a software product consists of these many phases. Starting from requirements, that is 1, then system analysis 2, system design 3, then 4, code design, and 5th one, testing, 6th one, deployment, 7th one, updates, 8th one, maintenance. All these are certain set of tasks which needs to be carried out at the developer side and needs to be maintained by the developer once even after delivering the software product to the client. So we shall go on into the details of it one by one in different units, that is in Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 and Unit 4. If I take up the Unit 1 as a reference initially, you will come across these topics, that is Introduction to Software Process and a software engineering paradigm, wherein you will find different types of life cycle models, that is waterfall model, incremental model, spiral model, prototyping, then object-oriented model. These are the life cycle models which you will come across in your software development life cycle. Then system engineering, computer-based system, verification, validation, life cycle process, then development process. If I say that go on listing like this, you will come across the introduction to the software process. What is the meaning of a software process? The process is said to be a development of software if it takes certain measures to build the required software product which needs to be delivered to the client. That means when a client approaches the developer, he has to go through few phases of software development. That is, software is not just an executable code. It is not just a program. It is a collection of programs. These collection of programs are bundled together to form a package that is called as a product. Now, once when the software product is ready for delivery to the client, it has to go through different phases. So that means before the delivery of the software product, it has to go through different life cycle process. There are many advantages when we use the waterfall model. At the same time, there are few drawbacks as well. Similarly, if I go through the incremental approach, there are few advantages. At the same time, there are few disadvantages of using the incremental model. Suppose if I employ the spiral model, again, that is comparatively better than the other models, but there are again few drawbacks are available. Then we have an object-oriented model. All these are different types of software development process. In each of these software development process, you will come across different types of phases of software development, that is requirement specification, design, implementation, verification, maintenance. These are the different steps or the process of software development life cycle. That is, if I consider the waterfall model. Similarly, if I consider the spiral model, you will come across different types of phases: analysis, evaluation, development, then planning. Initially, you have to plan yourself. This is your first. Then analysis is the second. Then third is the development. Fourth one is the evolution. So this is about the spiral model. You have to come across all those phases of that in spiral model. Similarly, if you take the prototyping model, determine the objectives first. What is the requirement of a client? That has to be determined initially. That is, the requirements must be collected from the client. Once it is collected, it has to be demonstrated, then developed, refined, then test, implement. So in this case, you will come across these types of software development process model. In all these cases, you will come across the different types of phases in each of these software development process model. I'm not going into the details of these software development process model at this initial stage itself, since you need to have the words which I'm using here in software engineering. What is the meaning of software process? The word process indicates that it is the type of development model that helps you to go through the different stages in which you are employing yourself or involving yourself in different activities. Let me take one example. Suppose if there is a company by name called Diagnostics. The diagnostics company wants to collect the details of a patient. Once when the patient enters into the diagnostics, he collects the information of a patient in terms of registration process. Once the registration is completed, he may suggest, or the pathologist may suggest, few tests for the patient. Based upon the suggestions suggested by the pathologist, the technicians, whether it is a senior technician or a junior technician in the diagnostics, will go through that and conducts certain tests. So all these are certain type of requirements which needs to be met in the software or a software product. So looking into these perspectives, the software developer must collect the information of a client in terms of the patient, in terms of a pathologist, in terms of technicians, in terms of staffs. All those modules must be developed. There must be some clarity in modularity. That means a single software product must be divided into different modules, that is module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4. And what each of these modules are performing. Each of these modules are performing is separate tasks that has to be carried out by a team of members. That means if module 1 is assigned to first team and module 2 is assigned to second team, module 3 is assigned to third team, module 4 is assigned to fourth team, then integration is very, very important. That means the cohesion and coupling. I'm using the word cohesion and coupling. That means the module developed by team 1 must be able to integrate it with module 2. There must be a flow of data from module 1 to module 2. Similarly, the module developed by team members 2, that is team 2, must be integrated with team 3. Similarly, module developed by team 3 must be integrated with team 4 with team 1. With any of these combinations, there must be some connectivity. That means the flow of data from one module to another module. That is called as an integration. Once it is combined, all these modules are grouped together to form an integration of one single software product and delivered to the client. That is also carried out in case of different software development lifecycle process. Let me take you into the next thing, that is software requirements. In this software requirements, you will come across role of management in software development. That is, the team manager or the team lead who is leading the team will be managing each of these team members. Suppose if there are 4 members in one team, one of the member would be a team leader. He will be managing the other 3 members, including himself. Then in the team number 2, there are 5 members. One of the member is a team leader and he will be managing all other 4. The project manager who comes above all these team leaders, who will be managing all these kinds of integration of all these modules into one single project. So that is how it is called as role of management in software development. Then role of metrics and measurement. What is the meaning of metric? Whether the metric may be in terms of time taken to develop the software, whether it may be in terms of number of lines consumed to implement or to meet the requirements of a client. What is the logic they are using? Which is that technology they are using to meet the requirements of a client? All those are called as role of metrics and measurements. Problem analysis. What is the meaning of problem analysis? When a client approaches the software developer, he has to analyze what is the requirement of a client. According to his requirement, he has to plan himself and start working according to the requirements of a client. That is called as problem analysis. Then requirement specifications. The name specification indicates that this must be the requirement of a client. Once when a client states that this is the requirement of him, the developer needs to analyze and collect the information according to his requirements. Then validation, metrics, monitoring and control. That means once when the software is developed completely, it has to be validated, tested, and it has to be controlled and maintained properly by the software project management team. All those are going to be taught in the software requirements, that is in unit 2. Similarly, software prototyping. In this prototyping, you will come across rapid prototyping techniques. What is the meaning of rapid prototyping techniques? Immediate delivery of software product to the client. That is also possible with the help of few software development prototyping techniques. The name prototype indicates that it is not a working model. It is not a working model. It simulates the working model. So we must be able to deliver the prototype model so that the client will be able to get some clear picture what is that the software is going to be developed by the developers, so that he will be able to understand what changes could be incorporated in the next versions of the software. All those can be collected in the prototype model. It is just a prototype model. That means, suppose, let me take one of the examples. Suppose bus ticket reservation system is a software development model. That is the software product which needs to be delivered to the bus, KSRTC buses. Now, suppose if I want to deliver the bus ticket reservation booking system, then before the delivery of that actual product, we will deliver the prototype, which is same as the actual product, but not the actual product. That is called as a prototype. That is, rapid prototyping technique is followed. Immediately when a customer comes to the developer, he delivers the prototyping model, which simulates the actual model. that is called as a rapid prototyping technique is followed here. Then user interface prototyping, that is software document. What has to be the interface with user and the system, how the user interacts with the system, all those must be developed in the form of a graphical user interface, GUI, so that the users will be able to interact very comfortably with the systems. All those must be documented in the form of writing. That is called as software document. Then analysis and modeling. Here we have different types of modeling, that is waterfall model, spiral model, incremental model. There are different types of models. These analysis can be performed and modeling can be incorporated into it. That is called as that. Then data and functional behavior. As you all know that a data is one which is entered by the user, Once when the data is entered by the user, it has to move through different modules, that is the processed data. For example, when a patient registers himself into the diagnostics, he may be tested for different types of tests. What is the cost of that particular test? What is the information that has to be conveyed to the patient at the end? That is, for test 1, 500 rupees. For test 2, 300 rupees. If he is tested with these two tests, he has to be charged 800 rupees. All those information must be processed in different modules. So the data entered by the person at the user front office, it has to go through different modules, and the processed final report, final data generated, which has to move through different modules. That is called as data and functional behaviors. Then structured analysis and dictionary. What is the meaning of structured analysis and dictionary? Suppose if there is a analysis which needs to be carried out in a very well structured manner, that is immediately after the requirements collection, the analysis is to be carried out. Immediately after analysis, the implementation or coding has to be followed. Immediately after coding, testing must be carried out. After testing, it has to be delivered. Once it is delivered, he may come with new changes, then it has to be maintained again. So these are the different types of steps which must be followed in a structured and well-defined manner. That is called as structured analysis and data dictionary. Next, in the third unit, you will come across design concepts and coding. That is, in this case, you will see that the different types of design process includes these. First one, abstraction. That is the first one. Then architecture. Then modularity. Then refactoring. Then information hiding. Sixth, pattern. Seventh one, refinement. So what is the meaning of abstraction? As you all know that you know to operate your cars. Let me take one of the examples. If you want to shift the gears of your cars, you can shift it easily according to the instructions or the information written on the gearbox. But you do not know the principle, how does the gears work internally. That is, you will be given only the brief information, outline of that. That is called as an abstraction. The complete detailed information is hidden from the user. That is called as an abstraction. Then, second one, architecture. Before you design any of the software models, it has to be architectured properly. That is how the data must flow through one of the modules to another module. All those details must be architectured in the form of a diagram or a pictorial representation is very, very important. That is, in the third case, when it comes to modularity, as I told you earlier, it has to be divided. If there is a big problem, that has to be divided into smaller sub-problems, and a solution to these smaller sub-problems are united together or integrated together, which forms a solution to the big problem. That is called as a modularity. Then you will come across the refactoring. Suppose that is called integrating, all those things are called as a refactoring. Then information hiding, the same thing which I explained right now. That is, only the relevant information is given to the user and all other irrelevant details are hidden from the user. That is also carried out in information hiding. Sixth one, patterns. In case of patterns, you will process the data which is collected from the user and it is processed internally. That is called as a pattern. Then finally, you will perform the refinement. Suppose if there is any changes to be incorporated into the existing system, then the refinements can be incorporated at last. So this is the design process that includes all these. So similarly, problem partitioning, as I told you, that dividing the big problem into smaller sub-problems and finding a solution to the smaller sub-problems, integrating all these smaller sub-solutions together forms a solutions to the big problem. That is called as partitioning the problem into smaller sub-problems. Then abstraction, top-down and bottom-up design. Similarly, if you see through the C programming language, you will see that all are in top-down approach. But if you take up the technology C++, it is in bottom-up approach. So you can design it as it is. According to your requirements, you can design it either in top-down approach or in the bottom-up approach. Then structured approach. C is also a structured approach. That is, from top to bottom approach is followed there. Then functional versus object-oriented approach. What is the meaning of functional versus object-oriented approach? When a user enters the data into the system, it has to go through different modules. That is called as a functional approach, also called as functional requirements. Then object-oriented approach. Object-oriented approach in the sense, when an object is created, it must have different functionalities along with the data. Suppose if I write down the object diagram, it includes class name, functions, list of properties. All these properties are encapsulated with functions, together forms one of the class. So similarly, we have n number of classes. All those approaches are carried out in case of object-oriented approach. Once when the data is entered, it has to go through the functionalities of that, functions of that, then the class names comes into the picture. So design, specification and verification. Whether the specifications specified by the user is going to be met in this software development or not is going to be verified. That is verification. Then metrics are considered here. Similarly, in case of this coding, top-down and bottom-up approach. As I told you earlier, C is one of the important coding technique that helps you to code from top to bottom approach. Similarly, if you consider the C++, objects are created at the bottom, that is the main function is written at the bottom, then the approaches, every other functions which are defined in terms of modules are invoked. This design is called as a bottom-up approach. You can adopt any of these technologies. Based upon the technology you adapt, you can consider either the top-down approach or bottom-up approach of coding. Then structured programming, the same thing. Then information hiding. As I told you that only the relevant information is given to the user and all other irrelevant informations are hidden from the user. That is called as information hiding, also called as an abstraction. Programming style. The style of programming we adopt is also very, very important. For example, if today I am a developer who develops the software product and immediately after developing the product at the one side, I will write down the comments. What is the functionality of that code block or the segment of that? What is the task of that? All those must be followed. That is called as programming style. Then internal documentation. That is, the code written by the developer must be documented in the form of what is the purpose of writing that segment. What does that code segment perform? All those details must be documented in the form of internal documentation. Then verification metrics, it comes to the testing part. Then monitoring and control comes to the maintenance part. Once it is delivered to the client, email comes with few more modifications. Then modifications must be incorporated once again. That is called as maintenance or monitoring and control. Similarly, in Unit 4, you will come across the project management, taxonomy of software testing. which are the different types of testings which you will come across. That is there are two important types, that is first one and second one. First one is planning phase, second one is execution phase. In this case, software testing, in this case, you will come across, this is called as a software planning. This is called as execution. Now, before we give this developed software to the testing team, it has to be checked with different types of tests, that is unit testing. What is the meaning of unit testing? Let me clarify you that. Suppose I have a team of 4 members. Each of these developers develops certain functions and they check the verification. They'll check the validation of that, whether the requirement of that client is going to be met in that functionality or not. That is, the code block is checked and validated against the requirements of a client immediately for the single block of code segment. That is called as an unit testing. All those kinds of testings are carried out in case of this testing. Once it is carried out, it has to be delivered to the testing team where they will integrate all these types of modules into one single project software development product, that is called as this. Once it is developed, they will consider it as the test organizations, wherein the test planning is considered here, then test estimations are considered here, then risk analysis is also done here. These are the 4 different steps in case of this software testing planning. Then test report and evaluation is done during the execution phase. That is 1, issue management, 2nd, then test monitoring and control is 3rd. So these are the different types of steps you will come across in case of taxonomy of software testing as well as in the levels of software testing. Then, which are the different types of test activities? Types of software testing, that is black box testing, test activities. What is the meaning of black box testing? Once all these modules are integrated together, you will get one single software product that has to be generalized software product. That is, if a person gives input in a correct manner, it has to work properly. If he gives any unknown data into the system, then it has to raise an exception. This is what the mistake done by the user. That means it has to be a generalized model. It must not work for only one specific model. It has to work for every other requirements of a user. That is called as a generalized system. So that is done by the black box testing. Whether the system is working for all the general requirements or not is going to be tested. That is called as black box testing. Similarly, you will come across test boundary conditions. What is the meaning of boundary conditions here? The name itself says that. Suppose if there is any data which is out of bound, that means there is a margin from here to here. The test 1 requires certain parameters ranging from 5 to 25. Suppose if a user enters any value out of this, either he enters 4 or 26, these are called as 5 and 25 are called as the boundary conditions. If he enters anything less than this or more than this, then it has to raise an exception. This is what the mistake the user has committed. That has to be brought to the notice of users. That is called as a boundary conditions. Then what is the meaning of functional testing? That is, when a user enters the data into the system, the data must go through different modules and it has to be processed by the system in a generalized manner. That is called as a functional testing. Then we have levels of testing which you have already come across, that is in the planning phase and during the execution phase. That is then structural testing. These are followed in a structured format in a well-defined manner. That is called as a structural testing. Then we have a test plan or a test case. They will consider different cases of test cases. That is, for test case 1, what is the output produced by the software product? For test case 2, if I give this possibility of another type of data into the system, whether it is leading to any exceptions, logical errors, or any kind of errors are going to be generated, are going to be tested, validated and checked, and it has to be documented in the form of a writing in the internal documentation report. Then test case specification. In this cases, I told you that there are different type of test cases are carried out. That is, in test case 1, he may give the proper input. In the test case 2, he may give the partial proper input. And the output would be, it has to raise the exceptions. That is called as test case specifications. Then reliability assessment. Reliability, whether the software developed by the developer is going to be reliable or not. That means whether it is going to work properly for all the possible combinations of inputs given by the user is going to be tested, whether it is reliable or not. That assessment is carried out. When it comes to the testing, integration testing, validation testing, system testing and debugging. Let me take up this system testing and debugging. Integration testing is carried out once when all these unit testings are done by the developer at the level of individual team. These individual team members developed software product must be combined together to form an integration testing. Then validation testing, whether the entire software product is going to work according to the requirements of client or not, is going to be validated. That is called as a validated testing. Then we have the system testing and debugging, whether the errors are there in the system or not. You may not be able to identify the errors, that is the logical errors, which may lead to some of the exceptions, that is divide by 0. Suppose if the user enters some value, that may lead to some unwanted errors. Those errors must be controlled in the form of system testing and debugging. Similarly, in this chapter, you will also come across software project management. As I told you at the first slide, that is these individual teams are maintained by team leaders. All these team leaders are maintained by project manager. So who is going to manage everything? So different levels of software management teams are there. They will monitor and manage every software product developed by every individual developer. Then cost estimation, project scheduling and staffing. That means when a client approaches the software developer or a company, software company, he has to think that how many people, how many employees must be employed to make the system work for the client. If there are 10 members employed in that particular project, what is the cost of that? What is the cost which must be borne by the client? That calculations are done based upon the number of employees involved in that software development. Then how many lines of code are there in each and every module of the software developer. Then cost estimation and project scheduling. That means this is taken today. That is, the software requirement is collected today. From today to the next date, when it has to be delivered, when the analysis is to be carried out, what is the time span required to carry out the implementation, what is the time span required to carry out the testing, what is the time span required to deliver the software product to the client. Once when it is delivered, he may come with few more changes. Then what is the time required to explain him this is what the new changes or modified changes incorporated into it. All those must be calculated in terms of time, also called as scheduling. Then software configuration management. The configuration itself says that the developed configuration may be version 1. Next, he may come with few more modifications. Once it is incorporated, it may becomes next configuration, that is version 2. All those details are maintained here. Quality assurance, whether they are meeting everything in the form of a systematic manner. All those things are managed in the form of quality assurance. Measures and measurements, that is software quality measures. In terms of software quality measures, you will say that whether the logic used in that code is described properly. But anyhow, the developed software product will not be delivered as it is. It is converted into an executable format, and the executable format of that software code is delivered to the client. Once it is delivered, he is going to use only the executable file, not the actual development product. That is called as the measures. A few of the measures must be taken. Then software complexity measure. What is the time taken? What is the complexity of that software product? All those things must be calculated. Then size measures, the same thing. Then lines of code, LOC is calculated. Then data and logic structure measure. As I told you earlier, what is the logic used in that programming language? What is the data going to be given? All those things are carried out here. Information flow measure, that is the data when it moves from one module to another. What is the complexity of that? Is there any errors which is coming out of that? What has to be the solution for that? How the data must be processed when it moves out of one module to another module, and how it has to be processed. All those things are considered here in case of information flow measures. Software cost estimation, COCOMO model. You will have a specific Delphi method model wherein you will learn how the cost estimation is charged to a client based upon this COCOMO model. Then software maintenance. This is the last part of that. Once it is delivered to him, he may require few more changes to the existing developed module. So he may come with few more changes. That is called as a maintenance or management. So these are the textbooks I am referring now. The first one is Roger S. Pressman, then Anne Somerville, then Pankaj Jalote, and this one, Frederick. Among these, I am considering only the Roger S. Pressman, which is a very nice book to study the software engineering. Dear students, kindly go through the slides and the information I am conveying to you all very well. Listen to it and read well according to the information given here in the slides. Thank you very much. Thank you all.